Hello, I'm Michael Hayman, and this is the Frontline, brought to you by Elite and powered by Seven Hills. We're here at the studios of the London Stock Exchange Group with a show that shares inspiring stories of growth from founders, funders, and the leaders of fast growth firms. Now, imagine for a moment if you could harness the power of light. Now, imagine again if you could use that power to make teleportation a reality, to set the world's most accurate clocks, and pioneer antimatter experimentation. Well, for today's guest, that's just another day at the office, because he's Dr. Graeme Malcolm and he's Chief Executive and Co-founder of the multi-award-winning photonics and quantum technology company M². Graeme, welcome to the show.
Hi, Michael. It's great to be here.
Well, listen, I'm going to start, if I may, with a quote that says, M² scientific expertise is to be treasured and nurtured. Now, that's not my words, not even your words, but it is the words of the Times. Why?
Yeah. Well, I think what we're trying to do at M² is to look over science as it moves through its different phases. And as you said, our particular area of science is the science of light. And it's starting to become very important for almost every imaginable area that you can think about in life. Light powers the internet. It's used to look back from satellites back at the Earth to deal with areas like pollution and climate change. But none of these things happen overnight. So, one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to kind of curate themes in technologies that involve light, and this new area of quantum, where we really start to make machines using light to control inside atoms to make new machines. So it's a long-term journey, and I think that maybe speaks to the curation and the timescales that we need to learn over.
So for those that are watching, thinking about what does the power of light look like? I mean, give us a sense of what it is. I mean, is it lasers? Is it, bit of product placement?
I'm gonna. Well, it's not my product, but if we look at a cell phone, without light for manufacturing, we couldn't make a modern smartphone. The displays are made using laser-based processes to make the displays. The chips that go in them, the size of those chips, there's 300 million transistors in a chip, and those are literally so small that without lasers and precision light, you couldn't make something that we all take for granted, like a cell phone.
So, great example, and obviously you're building a great business. I mean, tell us a little bit about that journey for M² in terms of where does a fantastic idea like this start? How do you start to think there's a business in this?
Well, for me, it started with a great physics teacher, and my next door neighbour worked for a big technology business. So I kind of put the two things together and studied laser technology at university. But for M², what we've tried to do is we start with the first phase where we build laser tools that will open up a new area of science. And we work with the scientists, so we use science as the kind of signpost to the future. So we work with the scientists to learn about the ideas that they're playing with, and some of those work, some of them don't work so well. But out of that, we kind of harvest the things that are going to move forward and can make a difference.
But you are turning science into a business. I mean, this is not just about scientific endeavour, this is about creating a highly successful business of the future. As a scientist, what awakened to you the fact that you were also an entrepreneur?
I guess I've always liked that journey, the excitement of making your learning practical, useful, and I think the ultimate example of that is where people want to buy something from you and put it to good use. So to me, there's kind of almost no point in having the ideas unless you can turn them into.
But you also saw business as a process as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think when we moved from a university into the university startup, we saw that business was the way that you had to kind of put, I think you've said it before, profit with purpose. You have to put the two things together so that you can use the profits to grow your business, to reinvest, and for us, we're in a real journey of scaling up right now.
I mean, you've certainly caught the eye of a lot of different people, from the Queen's Award for Enterprise through to the Sunday Times Fast Track 100, number of different other sort of things, awards, National Business Awards. So what are people seeing, do you think, in you and in M² that gets the attention? What are they seeing about the future that you're helping to create?
Okay, well, I think it's a couple of things. We're scaling rapidly, so we're roughly doubling every couple of years. So that's a high growth and a fast pace of growth. So that comes through in the numbers, and that gets people's attention. But I think when they look behind that, they start saying, so what are you doing at M²? And when we explain how these technologies can can change things like climate change. We calibrated ESA's Sentinel-5 Earth observation satellite. It looks back at the Earth and monitors pollution. We're working in missions to look at CO2. So when they suddenly start to see what's driving this growth, they start to realise that there's some big problems that sit behind it.
Do you, I mean, obviously a lot of what you're doing is scientific endeavour, you're looking at big issues, but in terms of how you keep that commercially grounded, I mean, does that matter? Or does profit come out of purpose, as you say?
I think over the long term it often does, but you need to make sure that your executions find home. What you do on a daily basis is really important. And for us, it's a little bit about balance. We've got about 80% of our business is focused on product and product growth, with about 20% going into invention, reinvention, innovation, and we find that's a good balance. So the focus that we've got on the short-term growth of the business drives us to produce more and more sophisticated equipment, better tools, larger volumes, and the innovation's what kind of really lays down the foundations for the future.
Now, you're a great example with M Squared of high-value entrepreneurship, high-value science, turning that into a commercially applicable business. A lot of people want to see a lot more of that in the UK in the future ahead. If you were to sort of capture some of the lessons of scaling great ideas, what would you share?
Oh, well, there's a few of those. I think it depends a bit on what phase of the business you're at. But I think there's some common themes. I mean, we collaborate really, really broadly. So, sometimes if you want to go on these big journeys, you need to make sure you've got partners. For us, that can be scientists that we work with. It can be our supply chain. Get those foundations of those types of relationships really well. You can't do everything in business, so do the things that you do really well, and then partner with people that are really good. I think also in the UK we've got arguably one of the best science bases in the world, but that interaction with industry is not as much as it could be. Many of the answers
and that's universities and industry, is it?
Yeah. So generally the universities are bringing out ideas, and industry is often its mission. So sometimes that overlaps not as much as it could be, but we found that we can work with the science base and really get things that are relevant to problems in end user markets out of academia and into the markets really fast.
I mean, you can speak with both the UK and the Scottish hat on in terms of actually growing a business in Scotland and taking it to the world. Is there any difference, any practical difference between how the UK more generally sort of helps entrepreneurs and high growth firms and how Scotland might specifically do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it was Buckminster Fuller who invented the buckyballs, this kind of chemistry breakthrough, and he said you've got to kind of act local but think global. So really what we do is we concentrate our efforts in Scotland and then we kind of lay it out from there. So the UK's relatively small country, great amount of assets, science across the country. We work across the UK, and then we use that to take it to the world.
Have you found in your scale-up journey, what's the best way of turning research into revenue?
Well, I think the best way is to really make sure that your technology meets somebody else's problem, hand in glove. You really got to identify the problem you're trying to solve and why it's valuable to the people out there. And when you find an application that really often can struggle for any solution, and you start to solve that problem for people, that's when the revenues really start to flow.
I mean, in some of the conversations I've had with you in the past, I've always been struck by how close science fiction is to becoming science fact.
Yeah.
When you look at the changes that are going to come, the changes that many of us might expect in our lifetimes, what do you see as the big ones that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at these areas of science for, 20 odd years now. But really, some of the things that we've done in the last 5 years have amazed me. We work in this area of quantum, where we literally make machines using light to build machines inside a small number of atoms. That's already led to the world's most accurate clock, a clock that's accurate to 1 second in 10 million seconds. So that's more accurate than 1 second in the entire lifetime of the universe. It's just amazing. But that's important because as data as markets speed up, as information speeds up,
that really matters.
We need to go
faster. It's not just about getting out of bed early on your alarm clock. This is about data and that.
Yeah, it's about the speed up of big data. And what we're also seeing now, so the first thing you do in quantum is often the best thing that mankind's ever done. We've recently done work in Quantum Navigator or Quantum Compass to provide very, very accurate navigation without needing to have any signals from GPS satellites. So autonomous navigation where you can navigate your way around the country, around the world, and even off into outer space. So incredibly accurate navigation. Again, the first thing we do in quantum navigation is up to the state of the art of previous technologies.
We're out of time, Greg, but I do want one last prediction. Big breakthrough in the next 10 years that you could see us living with.
Okay, I think it's got to be the quantum computer. A computer that within the first 5 millionths of a second of turning it on will be more capable than any computer that mankind's built. And that will allow us to do thousands or millions of years worth of calculations in a few days.
Graeme Malcolm, boldly going. Thanks so much for joining us on the show. And that's all we have time for. Very big thank you to my guest, Dr. Graeme Malcolm, and the story of M², proving the continuum between innovation and growth. It's a story that demonstrates technology's enduring ability to shape a new world and to create new markets. And it's testament to the power of entrepreneurs to inspire capital to back brave new ideas. Join me next time on The Front Line for more stories of infinity and beyond. See you then.